Okay, it's 1:30 p.m. UK time, GMT +1. It's always confusing, but hey, welcome. Thank you for joining us to episode 31 of RunChatLive. Great. I've been really looking forward to this. Well, I always say that, but I have, because today marks the first time we're going to have two guests on at the same time, double the value for the price you pay, which is nothing. So it's still nothing. But yeah, two great people who I'm really excited to start this inaugural double guest three-way kind of episode. We will mention them in a second. First of all, if you haven't heard it already, Jeff Gaudet's one 2 weeks ago has claimed the highest number of downloads. Actually, I won't tell you the number because size is not that important always. But yeah, if you haven't checked out Jeff's yet, it was all about the importance of the relevance of training for 5K. As opposed to just concentrating on the kind of more famous marathons and half marathons. There's some fantastic information and analogies in there, particularly the window blind moment, which I was talking about today with our guests, the idea of a window blind. And if you're always kind of training for the bigger distances, the kind of sexier races, you're always doing those long runs, and then all you're doing is you're pulling one side of the window blind, so your blind's going up. If you're not devoting enough time to the 5Ks, to the short, to the intervals, to the fartleks, to this kind of more intense work, then you're not pulling up the other side and you're not getting the most out of your body's capacity, which I thought was a brilliant analogy. I do love talking to running coaches for that very reason. But anyway, so that was Jeff for 2 weeks ago in episode 30. If you haven't checked it, then it's available as always on RunChatLive.com. If you want to watch the video, it's on YouTube. You've got the podcast and all the normal places. We'll have a quick mention for our sponsors, Brighton Beer Company. But there's also that beard special, which has also got loads of hits, more than I expected, which was fun. Well, I talked to the founder there, Lloyd, which is great. That's always still available. So yeah, I've had some great feedback actually about people listening to the podcast on their runs, which is great. I'm personally, I need music on my runs or nothing. I can't, otherwise I'm concentrating on what they're saying and I just lose that kind of point of contact. But if you are digging the podcast on your runs, and that's great news. I had some lovely feedback from Brad Whitley, who's a therapist, a physical therapist in Seattle, who recently got a qualifier for Boston 2020, which was great. He was doing, what was it called? The Jack and Jill Marathon in Washington. So shout out to Brad. Thank you for supporting us, and I'm really glad that the podcast fueled you on your way to getting that Boston qualifier. It's great. It's fantastic feedback. And indeed, thank you for everybody who's left reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, because that's how these podcasts reach more people. It's that simple. They got the monopoly, Apple. So if you really want to help us and reach more runners, then go to iTunes if you're on Android, or go to your Apple Podcast kind of app if you're using an iPhone, and just leave us a rating. And a review. That'd be great. Right, that's said and done. Enough of that. Today, this three-way, the first live on camera. Well, not the first live on camera. The first with two men is with Malcolm Sloan and Mike James. Mike James is again. It's actually the first time we've had a guest come back, so he is setting history now. You will know him probably as the Endurance Physio. Absolutely huge on social media, and rightfully so. Puts out some cracking material all the time. And the great thing about Mike is it's not just his own material. He's always putting out quality stuff from other people. And it's always a pleasure to chat to somebody of that caliber. So Mike will be joining us. And guest number 2 is Mr. Malcolm Sloan, who is the founder of Sports Injury Fix, who, again, a lot of therapists will be familiar with, because rapidly it's becoming the piece of software to use when it comes to publicizing yourself on the internet, for letting what we're going to talk about, basically how to stand out from the crowd, especially if you're kind of looking for a representative who's going to be kind of bigging you up and making things easier for you, supporting you, especially if you're kind of evidence-based and you've got something, a really good service to provide. So the title today is going to be runners, how to find a therapist, but also therapists, how to find your runners. So that's said and done. Without further ado, I'll give a little 5-second countdown to Mike James and Malcolm Sloan. There we go, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you both of you for joining us today.
Thank you.
and giving up your time. So let me just get rid of that caller for a sec. Fantastic. A big one today, hopefully, is if you are watching us, obviously, I've encouraged people online to watch us live because whether you're a therapist or a runner, we kind of want to get some questions as well. It's all very well us discussing and talking about what, makes a great therapist and how you can reach runners and runners, how you can find therapists. But we want some questions. We want to hear from therapists and runners as well. So if you are watching live, if you join us, then do feel free to write something in the comment box. Let's start off with, this is going to be like groundbreaking thing. I've got two guests here, so I've got to try not to leave either of you behind. Let's start off with Mike. Okay, Malcolm, you happy sitting in the background for a second?
Always.
We talked about this earlier, and we thought Mike would be the one who would feel a little bit inferior because of various reasons and body proportions. But Mike, we'll start off with you, sports therapist and a physiotherapist, which I thought was a good way of starting because I'm keen to know why you did both. Did you feel you need to? Has it given you more work? Would you recommend it? Far away.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a non-traditional journey. So as many people know, my background predominantly was military, coming from a strength conditioning, a fitness and exercise science background. So when I crossed over into therapy, I did a sports rehabilitation degree. And if I'm honest, I thought that was enough. It gave me all the skills I needed. It probably, because I worked explicitly in sport or with really athletic populations, I thought that was better placed for me than a physiotherapy degree. And I was quite happy with the skill set I had. I was quite happy doing the work I was doing. But as I grew a profile, as I grew a bit of a reputation and job offers were coming in, people assumed I was a physio. So I was getting offered jobs that, because of traditional hierarchy, a little bit of outdated thinking in my mind, these were physio definitive jobs. If you weren't a physio, then you weren't getting them. So jobs that I was getting offered were then getting retracted because I wasn't a physio, despite the skill set that they wanted being what they'd seen in me evidently. So when I left the military, it was a case of I needed to do a physio degree, or I did a pre-reg master's physio degree to get that tick in the box just to be labelled a physio. Now, it's something that's helped me because obviously I've branded myself as that. But if I'm honest, and I've said this on multiple shows now to people, that actually I don't think I personally learned too much. I didn't gain many skills from that course, whether it was because I was older, because I've been working in therapy for about a decade and a half by that point, I don't know. Is it something I would recommend everyone needs to do? Absolutely not. I hope and I think that it was just bad timing and age on my part. I think 10, 15 years from now, the sports therapy and the sports rehabilitation worlds will have broken down some of those outdated barriers, and the access to the best jobs and the pay for those jobs will be much easier and more appropriate. Maybe people now would benefit from doing it. What I would suggest is I think regardless of your therapeutic training background, cross-skilling and educating off other skills is a definite thing that most people should do. My background was done out of necessity because of timing and generations, really.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, speaking as a sports therapist from the beginning, well, massage therapist, well, actually strength and conditioning, then massage, and then sports therapy. I always had that, especially in the early days, that kind of like fear that I wasn't qualified enough. And I played around with it. I went through I want to be an osteopath stage, a podiatrist stage. Basically, when I met another professional, I wanted their certificate. And I think a lot of therapists go through that fear, that kind of like, imposter syndrome, which I think is kind of something we shouldn't fear. It's healthy to actually fear that you don't know anything because it helps you realize you don't know everything. And like you say, that helps you communicate and talk to other people. And Malcolm, on Sports Injury Fix, you've got a mixture of therapists, yeah? It's not just physios. Was that always the case in the intention, or?
Yeah, very much so. So it basically covers the 7 main professions. So physiotherapy, chiropractic, osteopathy, sports therapy, podiatry, sports rehabilitation, sports massage, soft tissue. And that was deliberate in order to be inclusive, because personally I'm not I'm not a therapist myself. You can't see all of me, but I'm a scrawny bloke made of glass that keeps breaking himself. And having lived all over the country, then I've seen all the different professions. And the consistent thing, you were talking there about that, the imposter syndrome of people who perhaps aren't a physio or aren't an osteopath, feeling not as worthy as the others. Likewise, there's definitely something to be said for appreciating the skill sets that each of those therapies have, and making the public aware as to what that is. And actually, at times, it's more appropriate to go and see a sports massage therapist, for example, rather than perhaps paying twice the price for half the service seeing a physio, because it's not their core skill set.
What was it your own personal injury? Because you come from a sporting background, only you've done your Ironman, I think you did, and triathlons and stuff. And was it through necessity that you realized we needed some kind of online system which would put all these different skill sets together? Or
yeah, like most businesses, to be honest, you set it up because of your own personal need and problem. So yeah, I've lived, as I mentioned before, lived all over, was living and working in London, doing the whole city lifestyle, working in finance and civil service, and then playing a lot of football. Injuries started to mount up, getting frustrated around not being able to find what I wanted. As we got a bit older, then got into running. My brother tried to bet me that I couldn't beat his marathon time, so being a classic younger brother, then I had to accept, and that got me into running, and then moved to Wales and got roped into doing Ironman Wales. So yeah, suddenly running marathons and Ironmen as well as football, then injuries are a part and parcel of that. And then it was just from my own side, I found it bonkers that if I went to the NHS, sometimes got brilliant service. Like my cousin up in Glasgow is an NHS physio, and she's an Ironman triathlete. So you see her, the service is wonderful. In other places, you'll wait 60 days to see somebody. You'll be with them for 10 minutes. You'll get a list of generic exercises, and it won't be very helpful at all. So more and more people are going private. But then if you go private, you're there going, well, I'm a runner and I've hurt my knee, but yet I'm asked to know whether I should see a physio, a chiro, an osteo, a sports therapist, a sports massage therapist, etc., etc. And it just doesn't make sense. And you chat to a lot of therapists, and they're all there trying to justify and explain why, what the differences are and how one's better than the other, etc. When certainly I was there, and maybe I'm just a bit thick and simple, but I was just there going, can no one just talk to me and say, I'm a runner, and I understand running and I understand knee injuries, because I wasted so much time and money seeing people that would tell me to stop running, tell me that running was bad for your knees. And we all know that's been proven, that the evidence is actually the opposite of that. And then, the more people I spoke to, the more people had the same problem, challenges, issues, views. So then thought, okay, well, is there something we can do just to try and solve this? And very much started as a free website to be helpful, rather than thinking, we'll start this as a business and try and make it massive. It was let's make it helpful and go from there.
Yeah, and I think the success has definitely shown that there was a need there. And everything you say is, I hope that resonates with runners listening to this. It is very confusing. Who do I go and see? Do I go and see a chiropractor? And is this what a chiropractor does? And do I go see an osteopath? Because this is what apparently an osteopath does. Is it a physio, a sports therapist? Mike, you've mixed with a lot of different professionals from different disciplines. How would you explain to, imagine there's a runner sitting here now going, okay, so what's the difference then? How would you define it in today's terms? Not going back to like 1830 when osteopathy and chiropractic was invented, but if we talk about somebody who's up to date with the evidence, and they're still selling themselves as a chiropractor and osteopath, what can a runner expect to be different if they can?
I think literally we can simply, I think most people still within the professions and outside the professions have a stereotyped image. And as you mentioned, they're all pretty much out of date. I spoke at the Sports Therapy Association conference last year, and I basically just outlined that in my mind there's good therapists and bad therapists, and that's it. If you find a good therapist, then what they'll tend to have, regardless of their background, is a similar set of skills, a similar approach. They will use evidence, but they'll use common sense. They'll use experience. They'll use, the people that they've treated in the past and the people that they've worked from. They'll be understanding, empathetic, but they'll also sort of try to find that balance between the techniques and the modalities that work. I think the problem we see now is that the people discuss it, and I find this frustrating because it's such a simple thing that should be avoided. But I think you and I both, when we're online and we're talking, we make a point of saying that this is how we approach runners. This is how we approach endurance athletes. What I don't do is say that the things I do for runners will be the things I might do for a 60-year-old with back pain. There's things I would change the way I operate when I'm seeing someone. And I think that's a skill set that a good therapist, regardless of training, will always employ. But unfortunately, we see a lot of people now who will say black and white treatment approaches, and they don't have context to it. There's no nuance to the population of patients that they may see. So someone will work with a specific population, and they try to advocate the same approach with everybody. And I think that's not necessarily saying they're bad therapists. It's saying that the good or the great therapists out there can change hats and approaches and their mannerisms and the things they say regarding the population that's in front of them.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. And there's this idea. I wonder how much, I think you said earlier on, potentially in 20, 30 years, maybe there won't be all these different types of therapists because, the more and more we start treating the person instead of the injury, which is what the evidence kind of shows is necessary to get a good result, then you're not going to have this spine specialist or a joint specialist or a muscle specialist, or it's all going to become more, I'm a person specialist. I listen to a person and I look at their training and I look at their diet and I look at their nutrition. I look at I check out red flags, and then you come to some kind of treatment program. So I don't know. Do you think disciplines could disappear, Malcolm? What about you? Because if disciplines do disappear, it'll probably make your website a lot easier to organize.
It probably would. And actually, what I find it fascinating just hearing therapists debate around, what are the difference between the professions? Does it matter? And actually, the one thing that we've found from the public and, particularly runners, having run the treatment room at last year's National Running Show and Run for Expo at the Rock and Roll Marathon up in Liverpool as well. So chatting to hundreds and thousands of runners, and all of them, 95% of them, they don't care what the profession is. They just want to be fixed. And actually there's this, because of the different professions, because of the infighting, because of the confusion, there's a lot of people that aren't seeking treatment because they're scared of the answer they'll get. So we had people the day before the marathon going, I don't want to talk to you because you'll tell me to stop running, and I've spent all this money and I'm raising this money for charity and I can't be told to stop running. So there's just, there's fear. So actually, from a public perspective, there's however many different professions, plus then you get all the wider complementary therapies that push themselves as well. When the average person can only understand 5 or 7 choices, and there's way more than that anyway, and with everything else that's going on in people's lives and everybody feeling too busy and stressed anyway, they're never going to know. You might explain it to them at one point and 10 minutes later they'll have forgotten. Whereas the public, they want the simplicity. They want whatever sport or injury that their sport they're doing or the injury they've got, they want to be able to keep playing sport, and they want their injury to be recovered, and whichever way makes that simplest for them, then that's what they'll be happy with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think therapists forget that. They forget about what the runner comes to us saying, I'm in pain. Can you get rid of this pain, please? I want to be able to run. And then suddenly it turns into, oh yeah, well, what you've got here is this ligament issue or this tendon issue, or you've got this bone issue and you've got this, and it all becomes suddenly focused on this injury when the patient's not really interested in that. They're like, I just want to be able to get rid of the pain. I'm not bothered about that. I just get rid of it and I'll do what you tell me to do. I don't know. We just turn things into we turn the binoculars the wrong way around, and we start focusing on the knee, and we forget that there's a person who's come to us in pain, as opposed to just, it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
So,
I think some of that is, sorry to cut in, but
no, fine.
I think it's what we were talking before around some of the imposter syndrome. I think there's this kind of invisible hierarchy of all the different therapies, and then individual therapists within their own professional hierarchies, let alone the other professions that are there. And I think there's so much there that it's easy to get quite caught up in that. And actually, then at times it's just, think of the patient.
Yeah, sounds obvious, doesn't it, when we're sitting here, us three? But hey, Daniel here is a great osteopath. I love it when I am colleagues. I've never met Daniel in person. Daniel, you have to come down to the running conference, then you can see all three of us in person. Take that trip. I've got people coming down from Glasgow, actually, I'm pleased to say. There's three. Maybe you know them. We'll talk later on. But anyway, Daniel's an osteopath from, pretty sure it is Glasgow. And I do enjoy it when I can talk to osteopaths and chiropractors and podiatrists and realize I'm on the same page, and there's not this whole different kind of science which we've all learned and studied. So Daniel's a fine example of that, and he's just pointing out, if you're listening to the podcast as opposed to seeing the video, Daniel just says, forget the therapy, think of the patient. What are their goals and aims? And that's what you work. Malcolm, no, Mike, back to you for a second. How did you get involved with Sports Injury Fix? What was the story there?
I think it's one of those stories of just something felt right. The stars aligned. There was a bit of karma. I was sitting when I was trying to grow the Endurance Physio. I dropped a couple of days in the clinic I was working, and I was sitting in a Costa Coffee writing some content. And
we just like to say there are other coffee bars available which you can go to. Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. And an email dropped into my email box, as probably 10 that week, from someone who I thought was selling something, which happened to be the other man on the screen, saying, do you want to write some content for Sports Injury Fix? And I've probably deleted 100 of those type of emails over the last few years. Never batted an eyelid, just delete. And I don't know why. I don't know whether it was the name of the company. I don't know what it was, but something just grabbed me, hooked me, sent a little reply. And then really organically from there, but actually now the fact we sit next to each other every day, it probably was much more than just an organic sort of development. Something was right there from the outset. But it went from writing some content to working at some of the shows, speaking at one of their conferences, and then a real sort of probably the easiest conversation that either Malcolm and I have ever had. Would you be interested in coming full time? Yes, I would. 2 days later, there was a contract, and I was director of Sports Injury Fix.
Beautiful. If only everything was as simple as that in real life.
Yeah,
great. So, a question to both of you then. Let's stick with runners for the moment. So, runners listening to this, it is a database of therapists, obviously, but what is it that makes it easy for a runner to find the right person who is going to help them solve their running issue, their pain issue, injury issue? Malcolm, maybe you're the boss. You start off, and might chime in when you like.
I think the key thing is what we talked about earlier. It's that simplicity. From runners are there and they want to run. Whatever you tell them, they'll run anyway. And most of them will have been fed up of wasting a lot of time and money with people that will tell them to stop running, or they'll have seen and they'll have just tried to get them in same time, same place every week, £50, £50, £50. So it provides an opportunity where they can go in and put who specialise in running injuries in my local area. So will that mean that they magically get the right therapist for them? No. Does it massively increase their chances of getting the right therapist for them? Absolutely. And depending where they live, depending on the numbers of therapists in that area, then you can even be a bit more specific around the particular injury or particular part of the body that hurts to see who specialises there. Needless to say, though, if you live very rural and there aren't many therapists around, then if you put in very specific niche terminology, at times people go, "Oh, your website's rubbish because there isn't a therapist on there that does that." But actually, that's just because, in Anglesey, there aren't that many badminton specialists that specialise in knee injuries, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that simplicity. When people have that start point of not knowing where to go, what to do, the start point of most people say, do you know any good physios, which then excludes a load of other potentially brilliant people. It just allows them to go on and say, right, running injuries in my area where I live, work, wherever, who's there? And then that starts the conversation.
And how about, this might be a tricky question, but what benefit do you think there is of a runner using Sports Injury Fix as opposed to just asking at their club, who can help me with this?
So if there's a physio, a sports therapist, or a therapist already associated to a local running club, well, then that's brilliant, because if that's somebody that genuinely understands runners and has a good reputation, and there's that personal recommendation of other friends or colleagues that have been to see them, then absolutely that would be a natural first port of call. What we tend to find, which is interesting, is that where not everybody has that opportunity. And indeed, sometimes when people do have that opportunity, then two things can have happened. One can have been that person's just latched onto the running club because they think it's a good place to get clients, and actually they don't really understand running themselves. And two, they've been that associated with that club for 30, 40 years, and they've got a bit tired and haven't necessarily kept up with some of the evidence, and therefore that's not necessarily right. And equally, sometimes it can just be a personal thing, that actually that person might be incredibly knowledgeable, but for whatever reason, if as a patient you go in and there just isn't that spark, that connection, that trust that's there, then suddenly as the patient, then we all know that they don't do their exercises as they should do, and then because they're not doing what the therapist says and they're not doing the exercises in the right way, then they're not getting fixed in as quick a time as they want, and so then they get frustrated, and then they move on. But yeah, certainly if you're fortunate enough to have a good therapist as part of your running club, then absolutely that should be your first port of call.
Yeah, that's good. Very well and diplomatically said. But it's true, the points you say out loud, and it's good that runners should hear that, is that there are, and I'm not obviously slagging anyone off in particular, but there are therapists who have kind of like, through successful marketing and just friends of a friend, managed to kind of like you say, kind of be the therapist for that club. But you just got to be careful, because sometimes just because they're seeing lots of people doesn't mean they're giving the most up-to-date evidence, doesn't mean that they're actually, I mean, I always put it, it's imagine if you've got a therapist who sees all the runners in the club, and after 8 weeks of seeing them all, they're all better. It's that whole thing of, how do you know that in 8 weeks they wouldn't have been better even if they hadn't seen him or her? You know, it's you can't go by. It's very difficult to measure whether the therapist has actually solved the problem, or whether it's just natural history or time, and whether they would have got better anyway. So yeah, there is a little bit of it's a very good piece of advice. You have to be careful of recommendations, personal recommendations. You might not need to even see a therapist. You know, wouldn't be great? Imagine if you actually, how many runners would enjoy it if they went to a therapist and have you ever done it, Mike? Let's go over to you, Mike. How many times do you have people come through your door and they're worried and they think they've got this and they've got that, and you can actually solve it in a session?
I think I've probably cost myself thousands since I went on social media by just telling people the answers on an email or a text message. And honestly, I mean, I'll say this on my children's lives, most people that I see in person these days, something's wrong if I see more than once or twice. And normally it's, here's some stuff you need to go away and do. This is my advice. If you're not better in 6 to 12 weeks, maybe consider seeing myself or someone else again. I never say you need to come back and see me. If someone is there, you know, I've seen someone and I want regular treatments, or I've had X, Y, and Z, I'll just point them in the direction of someone who'll do those things for them. The light and dark difference between the way Malcolm runs Sports Injury Fix as a business and how I run the Endurance Physio as a business. Endurance Physio is an absolute failure of a business based on my morals and my ethics. I am losing money. I've just done my accounts for the previous year, literally losing money in the business because I'm just trying to give free advice to people and give people the right direction to help, because half the time I feel wrong seeing someone for it. Which is why on Sports Injury Fix, we've been really dedicated in trying to provide loads of evidence-based blogs and content for these runners and other sports to tap into, because most people will not need to come and see one of our therapists. If you want that one session or the advice, or you need some treatment, unfortunately, then we've got therapists who can help, and they're expert therapists. However, visit the site, go to the blog site, look at all our blogs on how to stay injury-free, how to find advice on the internet that helps. We just try to help in any way we can. When you come to the running shows that we do, the treatment rooms, we probably give as much advice away to people passing us by as we, or free handouts and exercise sheets and advice sheets that we give to people, as we do to treat people. Because again, we're not at these shows to make money. We have costs we need to cover, but we're there because we're trying to help runners or whatever sports we're working with in different shows to get better, and to just, we want to unite the professions. We want to upskill the professions. We want to take the frustration that we're getting fixed. But actually, if we had brackets at the end of our mission statement, it is, we're sick and tired of the bullshit as well. So we're just trying to be nice to people and give the right advice. So I and us are probably trying to do the right thing on our horse with our sword, and we're probably costing ourselves money every day.
I can see so many reasons why Malcolm runs the business, and just encourage you to send it. That tagline really would have worked.
Sometime when there's videos needed doing, that's it.
No, it's wonderful.
The reason why we started working together was that we shared those views, and we just came at it from a different way. Mike's background is from a therapeutic background, and mine's from a business and breaking themselves background. So it was very much a meeting of minds on that. It's just why is it so difficult, and why is everything so siloed?
I think in an ideal world, because otherwise we're just destroying any form of business model. I'm sure you find it, Mike, as well, is you might send someone away as opposed to going, oh, it's going to cost you 6 sessions, I'm afraid, and out comes all of it's going to hurt a lot after the first session, but don't worry, that's normal. By the time you come back after 8 sessions, it won't hurt anymore. All these sort of cliches that come out to show people that they need to come 8 times. Even though you are kind of shooting yourself in the foot by giving them 1 session or 2 sessions, loads of kind of self-management strategies, hopefully when they bump into someone else in the club who needs some help, they're going to go, you need to go and see old Mike James, because he's not going to suddenly take a sharp intake of breath and start, saying you're going to come see me 8 times when he doesn't even know what it is. So hopefully you get repeat clients more regularly.
Yeah, and I think it has 2 benefits. So I definitely get more one-time appointments because they know they're going to get an honest opinion, and I probably won't see them again. But also as well, it means that if some of these people ever do come back, and I genuinely at some point in the future need to say, okay, rather than amending something, modifying something and doing X, Y, and Z, I actually need you to not race in this race. We need to do something else. Then I hope then that lands a little bit better. And that's few and far between. It's only when I think it's a real serious problem that's detrimental to their running and their health. But generally, I feel comfortable with it. I think I'm able to portray that message comfortably because I'm sitting morally comfortable with what I'm doing. So yeah, you do get more business. I'm always conscious to say, because I know a lot of therapists listening to this are going, well, I couldn't run my business that way. Right now, I don't have a physical practice. I treat from my home or other people's homes or various clinics that I work out of now and again. And obviously I run my teaching courses. So I have a lot of overheads that aren't in place that some people do. And I appreciate that for some people, they'd love to treat that way and they perhaps can't because there's people and staff to pay and bills to pay. So I get that. I've put myself in a lucky position that I can be quite selective with who I see and don't see. But it works really well for the format that I want to work in. And I feel then when we push that message out via Sports Injury Fix as well, because we are trying to provide solutions for therapists to streamline and progress their business, but also to make more money other ways, then hopefully they can be a little bit comfier with the way they're treating people because of the solutions we're providing them. So it's a scalable development that we think is helpful to therapists.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a very common problem for therapists, and I think it's where therapists. This is the sort of CPD that therapists need. They need to go and see people like yourselves. I'm not just picking up your course, but I know your course kind of deals with these sort of issues where how can I have a successful business model? It's all very well saying that I mustn't book patients in for a minimum of 5 times, because I know this is what therapists do. They plan their business model on average, I have to see every patient at least 5 times. And the minute they walk through the door, they know as soon as they're doing less than 5 times, and they're not going to hit their target. So this is the sort of thing I think therapists need to go and chat to professionals like yourselves and realize that there is an alternative way of doing it. And in the long run, your business and your career is going to hang around for an awful lot longer, because people are already wising up to this. Therapists are already seeing a drop in money. If the only thing you offer is 6 sessions for every patient, hoping that the pain will go, then it's you're kind of like holding on at the moment, but it's not going to be such a popular business.
No,
and again, the health system's changing.
Yeah, and again, the business advice that we can offer some of the therapists, because when I started treating people privately, I undercharged so much because all I wanted to do was help people again. It was a little bit of money for me alongside a wage I was earning at the time. And so many people said to me, you should be triple what you're charging because you're fixing me in 1 session or 2 sessions, or you're giving me the tools to fix myself. And that took a long time personally for that to become something I could digest and feel comfortable doing. And now I've learned pretty much from that man on the other screen that, valuing myself and my business and realizing, I do charge more for that session than others, but you're going to get 1 session out of me and you're going to get an hour of my time. And that'll be undivided time and attention, and I'll give my 20 years of experience to try and help you. Now, that's not going to, some people won't see the value in that. And I'm now comfortable with, fine, that's not people I really want to be seeing because we're just not meant to work together. So that's the way we try to help a lot of therapists, is just opening their eyes to that side of the business of it. I always used to joke with patients and runners that I would see that, if you walk through a door of a clinic and someone wants you to set up a direct debit, you probably need to run away as fast as your injury will allow you. But there's plenty of therapists who are maybe doing that sort of business profile and business plan and strategy because they just don't know a better way. They just don't know a simpler way.
Yeah. So it is worth saying that at times that approach has value.
Yeah.
And that's why it came about. But it's as with everything, isn't it? Then people start applying that to everything, and they forget about that common sense approach. And they forget about, okay, well, there's a time and a place where there's an elongated period where I am going to need to see these people regularly. Or equally, here is a person that is telling me, I do my exercises when I'm with you, but I don't do them when I'm not with you. And I've got the money. And so effectively, I am paying you to almost be a personal trainer as well as a rehab therapist and to do the rehab with me. And they're going in that with their eyes open. And if the therapist is really open and honest about it, right, you don't need to see me because as long as you do the exercises, but if this is the way that it makes you get better because it's forcing you to do it, fine. Well, then absolutely that's appropriate. But then equally, like you've both said, there's other times when if it's just 1 session, just have the 1 session. And as Mike had said before, then people start valuing your opinion when they're hearing different advices. So rather than those 5 people from the running club and they're all saying, I went to see Mike, and we all got told exactly the same thing, which is, sign up to his direct debit, 6 sessions. That's then when the doubt starts cropping into people's minds.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm pretty sure Mike has, and one of the things, as well as undervaluing yourself, I think it's a common trait amongst therapists. First, I like to think, first of all, that people get into therapy because they're caring people. They like helping others. It's something natural inside. If you want to be a healthcare professional, it's because deep inside you want to help other people. I mean, the percentage of people out there who are therapists and just do it willingly without ethics and conning people, I think is pretty tiny, because they would have never got into the profession in the first place. So like you say, there's either a fear that they don't know another business model, or just a fear of the unknown. But I know that as a therapist, I've questioned my own ability. I've questioned my own what I should charge people. But also there's a danger as well of sending people away, like you say, Malcolm, when really they're quite happy to come back to you every week. They've got the money. That's not an issue for them. They earn much more than us. And they know, like you say, that they if they're with you, they will do their exercises. Yeah, they need to be nagged. And that's a scenario which I think there's a danger that therapists listening to us maybe don't take on board. You know, if people always check people when people are, you know, you're about to say goodbye, rather than saying, oh no, you don't need to come back, you've always got to ask that question, what do you think? Do you think you need to come back next week? You know, let them talk it through. Otherwise you could be just losing money and not helping a patient, which is what nobody wants, is it? That'd be a ridiculous scenario.
Yeah. And because I mean, I say that from personal experience, in terms of, in my previous role, I was working away in a management consultant. So then actually with a working long hours and with a long commute and a young family at home, zero time at home, all the time I wanted to spend with the kids. So as far as I liked, I never did as much of the rehab as I wanted to or should do. I was fortunate enough to have private medical insurance with a company that I was in. And if I had physio sessions blocked out in my diary, that meant there was no quibbles, no questions asked. I could easily get the time off work, and there was a physio just literally over the road from where I was working. So I was very honest with them, and was almost telling them and almost trying to give them money, because I was saying, look, if I can book these regular sessions in with you at a lunch hour, there's no facilities where I'm working, but you've got the facilities there, so I can come to you. And yeah, you can actually watch and make sure I'm doing the exercises correctly. It means that I'll definitely be doing them on a regular basis. And yeah, sure enough, that helped.
Yeah, definitely. That's all good. It's all good advice. We have a little comment here. We're actually talking about the therapist. Gary House has just put a little comment. I'll read it out for those of you listening. Gary House says, what process does a therapist go through to end up on the site as a specialist in certain areas? So yeah, let's, Malcolm, I guess that's your boat. What do therapists have to do?
Yeah, so it's when they're specialist is an interesting term, actually, because we tend to find that from a therapist side, it comes back to this imposter syndrome. The therapist tends to have a view of, well, I'm not necessarily a specialist in certain areas. I understand all areas. But from a public side, then that's the language that they understand. So it's something that we thought long and hard. So actually what we ask therapists when they sign up is, right, we understand that you can treat a whole array of injuries and a whole array of sports, but based on your experience, where is it you've had the greatest experience? Where is it you've got the greatest level of, you know, perhaps specialist knowledge or more detailed knowledge that's there? And the only people that are really going to know that are the therapists themselves. So it's a bit of a self-certification. Now, if that therapist, and we said before, you know, how many charlatans do we have, and charlatans that would go on and lie about what they specialize? Those types of people don't put themselves out there on public-facing websites, etc. So if people have put something on that perhaps isn't quite as truthful because they just think, oh, I just want to target runners because runners are always injured and that will attract more clients. Well, after the first couple of patients that have been there and left bad reviews, that will quickly be proven to be rubbish, and certainly will then be straight onto them and make sure we're removing them or having a conversation around it. Because equally, we're also aware that at times you can get one bad review, and it's not because you don't have that specialist knowledge. It's actually just you didn't click as people. You know, for whatever reason, you tried to talk to them and engage with them, and they're just a very different person to you, and you didn't gel. And sometimes people understand that, and some people then interpret that the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely. No, very wise. Yeah.
I think also it's probably worth mentioning that as a quality vetting and quality assurance plan, one of our non-exec directors, Dr. Rod Jakes of the English Institute of Sport, whose CV is too long to go into, but pretty much has headed up Team GB for numerous Olympic Games. And myself and Rod are trying to amalgamate a vetting process to do with sort of skills, qualifications and experience to be able to trawl the site, so that we can then go in and vet these people and say, actually, look, you need to be this level on the site, or we need to give you this much credibility on the site because of. So it's a self-certification to get on the site right now, but there's certainly a policing system from us which will be rolled out fully almost imminently to then start to really deep dive down on these people on what they're saying. We've had to grow quantity of therapists for a period of time to give credibility to the site, but actually we've always had the master plan of quality over. We want both. We want a large amount of quality therapists on the site, but if push came to shove, we want quality over quantity. So if people need to be targeted for the quality to raise themselves up a little bit, then that's certainly what we're going to try and do. And then it's a really nice segue to throw in that my personal mission with Sports Injury Fix is to implement a whole big CPD wing, training wing, so that we can upskill the quality of our specialists. There's numerous ways of how we're trying to make sure that the specialist tick is the specialist tick.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Malcolm?
No, I think it's what Mike said there is absolutely bang on the money. What I would say is when we're talking about quality, then again, this is not for those that are coming in at the soft tissue sports massage, sports therapy to then feel, oh, okay, does that mean I'm going to get ranked lower than a physio or any of those politics? This is the thing that we spent a lot of time working through, and it comes back to Mike's point previously about there are good therapists and there are bad therapists within the different swim lanes that are there. And that's why it's taken a little bit of time to get right, because actually it's something that we've put together. We work with all the as many of the associations as that will engage with us and talk to us, and as many therapists as possible to try and get something that works for people. But one of the simplest ways is every therapist that signs up for this site now, we give them a call and we have a good conversation with them, and we talk through and understand, right, what is it you say you specialize in? How do you operate as a business? What are your key challenges? What do you need help with? So then what that means is then we really understand them as people, and we really understand how best we can help them. And equally, we give them the pointers to help them understand the public in the best way too.
Yeah, it reminds me there's something which we were talking off air about a while back that I think was really interesting, and it kind of demonstrates information that you, in your position as the founder of the company and having access to all of that kind of what works and what doesn't works, with regards to how many kind of services a therapist should say that they can do and what they can offer. There's this kind of like therapists feel that the more they can put underneath their name in terms of the courses and the stuff they've done, the more chances they're going to get. And we talked about this, and you mentioned jam, which confused me initially, but yeah, take it away.
Yeah. So this comes about, it's one of those things, isn't it, of putting yourself in the shoes of a patient. If a patient, I'm a runner and I've hurt my knee, and I'm searching online to try and find treatment, and I come across Sports Injury Fix either directly or through one of the various partners or people pushing us out there, things like this, which is great. Then I start searching in my local area, and then I have one that talks about, right, sports therapist, and then just lists shockwave therapy, sports massage, cupping, myofascial release, blah, 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 and has a list of about 10 things. Or you have one that says, I'm Sarah, I've been an amateur runner for 20 years from 5K to marathon distance. I've helped numerous runners over the last 20 years achieve their goals, both from amateur doing their first 5K through to elite athletes competing at national games. By the way, I'm also a sports therapist. As the runner, who are you going to pick? Now, that's the thing, that from a therapist perspective, it is that desire to show, well, look at all I offer. Aren't I amazing? But what it does is it confuses the public, because the public are there going, well, I don't know all of that. And so the JAM study was back in 2000 at a market stall. There was one jam seller that had 15 different varieties of jam. And you had one that had 3 different varieties of jam. And the standard view is you'd think, well, there's more choice there, therefore that jam seller's bigger and better, aren't they? And aren't they wonderful? They're going to sell more. But actually, it was proven in that study that when there's too much choice, you get that choice paralysis, and the public buy only 10% for that one, which means that you have a 90% better return when there's less choice. Also, after the decision has been made, then if there's been too much choice, then people don't have confidence in that choice. So then you get that buyer's remorse as well. So then they're questioning it even after they've bought it as well. And it's something that's definitely plays a part from a therapist side, because there've been numerous studies since after that one around jam just confirming this. And there's a great thing in the Harvard Business Review. If you just put in Harvard Business Review Jam Study 2000, then you can have a read about it, and it's well worth a read because it's quite simple. And it basically just highlights again that people need things clear and simple. How can you help people? Don't just provide a long list and way too much choice. Now, you might have all of that, you might have all of that knowledge, but you know what? Bring it out when it's appropriate. Have those tools in your tool bag. You don't get a plumber come to your door and just open up their van and go, look at all of these tools I've got, aren't I amazing? Because you just think they're a bit weird, wouldn't you? But yeah, isn't it brilliant when you've got that plumber and they're doing something in your house and they don't have to dive off the B&Q every 5 minutes to pick up the various tool, when they can go, oh, you know what? I've got one of them in my van.
It's very good. That's a nice analogy. I like it. Yeah.
But also, if the plumber showed the tools to the average person, they wouldn't even know what those tools are.
Yeah.
Likewise, on the website, when you're creating a profile, if you're just listing skills and treatment types, people don't know what they are. They've probably heard about them. They've probably heard little words thrown about, but they don't understand them. So because people buy people, sell yourself. Sell the value you bring to them. The example Malcolm gave was perfect about Sarah. Sell yourself, sell what you can offer them. The skill sets will be there, but that's a outdated traditional problem with the industry. That's how people market themselves. They put their post-nominal qualifications behind their name more often than not. And it's because, and this is what's happening, we've got infighting within the castle walls, everyone trying to climb over each other to the top, everyone trying to say that this profession's better than that profession, this skill is better than that, or breaking each other's skills down. Outside the castle fence is a population of athletes who just want someone to help them. So they don't need that stuff, that infighting and outdated hierarchy being bandied about. So sell yourselves. People buy people, sell yourselves. If they like you, they'll do well. All the therapists that are doing well on social media, none of them list the skill set they have. It's them. It's the person that's doing well.
Very good. People by people. I can see why you hooked up with him, Malcolm. He's good. The boy speaks some good words. He's got some good stuff coming out that Welsh mouth of his. It's true.
Yes. Bigly, another point to kind of to build on that as well, though. We talk about people by people, and equally, it's that thing of accepting and feeling comfortable that everybody is different. You won't go on with everybody. You won't be able to help everybody, and that's all right, and that's fine, because there'll be people that will be watching this and seeing and hearing me and Mike for the first time maybe, and some of them will just instantly dislike us. Won't be for any rhyme or reason. It just is what it is. Equally, there'll be others that might resonate with what we're saying and really like things, but it's feeling comfortable with it. And so then it's about helping people and again, if you're a one-man band or one-person business, then if you can't help that person, or you hit the point where you can't, then at least help that person by passing them on to somebody that will help. So even if you don't have your own network of people that you refer to, you can use Sports Injury Fixers to see who else is in your local area. Start, give them a call, meet up. So then suddenly you have that network of sports massage therapists and osteopaths and chiros and whatever else. So if you meet somebody that you don't get on with, or actually they've gone, I really want to see an osteopath, do you know any good ones? or physios or sports therapists, whatever it is, then you can pass them on. Because then even if that person, they don't like you, they'll still respect you because you've helped them, and they'll still recommend you to other people because they'll say, okay, this person couldn't help me, I didn't click with them, but actually they were really honest about it and they've referred me on to somebody who has been really helpful. So that's great.
That's very good. Yeah.
The other way, sorry, Matt, the other way that we like the community or the network inside is that geographically, most therapists think they're competing against each other when actually they could be supporting each other. So I have a patient comes to see me and I assess them and I think the thing they need is soft tissue therapy. There are better soft tissue therapists within 10 miles of where I live than myself. So why don't I direct the person to the best person for them? It's going to be reciprocated at some point in the future. And therefore, I'm a small business, but I've got a much bigger presence because I don't own a clinic which employs all these staff. I don't have the finances or facilities to do that. But maybe as a small practice, I can act like a big practice, a big therapeutic sort of industry player, because I've got sources and people I can refer to. Other industries do it, but we seem to be quite blinkered with that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that at the end of the day, I mean, that's something that when I've been looking around Sport Injury Fix, it's definitely, you've got that fantastic combination of it being a database, but also there's a clear network there for runners and therapists, which has got to be something for the future, really, because like you say, there's too many therapists feeling that they're competing with each other. They're competing on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and it's just so much time must be wasted advertising yourself everywhere. How powerful a tool do you think it is? Have you had any good feedback or reviews with regards to getting business for therapists by predominantly advertising most on Sports Injury Fix?
So I guess the key point there is we would never say do all your advertising on Sports Injury Fix, because then people are having unrealistic expectations. Sports Injury Fix is something from a therapist in terms of as an advertising perspective. Yes, it can help them. But then some of that is also how much do they help themselves with it as well. So the people that have had the greatest success for it are those that have not just created a profile, but have taken the time to make sure it's well worded, have then reached out, because we always have various emails which we put out to therapists requesting for people with different specialisms in certain areas, and said, right, I've got this brilliant story, I really understand this area, talking about runnings, so runners. So Sharon Dooley is a classic example of this, in terms of she works in Runner's World in Eastleigh, and she is a masters athlete. And so she wrote a brilliant article about, how elite athletes train, what they look for from therapists. She's a therapist herself, so how she understands it. Now, we publish that not only on our national site, but equally push that out there to various other places as well. And we've got other partnerships with UK Run Chat and Fast Running and Run Mummy Run and these sort of places that are always looking for really good content written by informed people. So actually it suddenly boosts their brand on a national basis. Likewise, where we're doing events and shows, then Sharon's come along to the National Running Show where we've run the treatment room there. And actually from that, then she's bumped into a load of her clients who were there going, oh wow, you're there at this stand at this national stage, my God, yeah, this is great. And it's kicked off those other conversations. So where you have people like that, then actually they get quite a lot of benefit from our site. But the one thing that we would say is, yeah, it should be part of your marketing. It shouldn't be all of your marketing, because there's some other great avenues for it as well. Equally, that listing side of the site is just part of Sports Injury Fix. There's the community side, which was touched upon in terms of the private therapist forums to help support each other to get over that imposter syndrome, to start working together rather than working against each other. But equally, then there's the whole software side as well, which If you've got more established businesses that already have their own software, well, it can link into that. If therapists don't have it, or are suffering from some of the age-old challenges like no-shows, etc., then we've got some very intuitive, simple-to-use software, which a couple of association chairmen asked us to create. And the beauty of it is that it helps therapists get paid for no-shows, which is something that isn't out there. And equally, it's smart enough to cope with having multiple therapists and multiple rooms, so therapists can maximize the use of their facilities.
Great. Sounds like you've covered a lot of gaps there are in potentially other kind of client booking systems and that. How long have you been around for now? When did you set this all up?
So I set up as a proof of concept about 3 years ago.
All right.
So yeah, but that was just, as I mentioned before, kind of part-time. Let's chuck it out there as a useful resource. Let's see if any therapists want to sign up, and then you get people like the other gentleman on the screen getting involved, and suddenly it starts supercharging.
It does seem to me like you've had time to consider all the other ways that therapists can use to book clients on, advertise their own services, and just kind of really focus on them. And like you say, involve other professionals, both other runners and other therapists, to see like what's missing, how can we help you, what would make life easier for you and your patients, and kind of come up with some good results.
Yeah, and I think that time is such a key key thing, really, in terms of we come at it as a community, and build the community, and then let's understand what the community are after, which is then where all the booking system and all of that side came, which means actually then we're building something that the people really want. Likewise, then, we're putting out injury advice to runners and helping them. Now, we could do that in isolation and view other people as rivals, if you like, and negative, or actually we can reach out. We can do things like this, and Mike manages our social media side and always bigs up other people, and we've got working now with James Dunn from Kinetic Revolution, that people will know, huge numbers of followers, and equally it'd be easy for him to dismiss us and not want to work with us, but actually we've said, well, look, actually you put out some really good stuff, so if you put out some really good things, then we're going to push that out and say, this is really good. These are the sort of people that we want to work with, because then it creates that community of people doing helpful things. And this community is, the market is mental, it's huge. There's not enough good advice out there to help runners. There aren't enough good therapists out there to help people with injuries. But it's about getting rid of some of the confusion, and then you'll start getting the network effects, and you'll realize that, there's enough out there for everybody.
Very good. Very good. You're a very good duo. You work very well together. It's great to have you both. And that's my intention of having two guests on the show, especially people who work together, is you can see what both of you bring to the table in different ways. Bless him, Mike. But you both contribute in fantastic ways. Mike, anything you want to add? Because we're running out of time now. But anything either about your involvement or that you think therapists or runners should know about?
3 quick things I would have added. First one, on the marketing side, the beauty of us since we've been full-time is we have time to evolve things, and sometimes they evolve so quick we can't get the messages out quick enough about it. So one thing that we do, or we are going to start doing on a much more personal level, is to be able to help you with your marketing strategies from a background position. So we can help you develop your specific marketing across social media and things like that. It won't be branded by us. It won't have anything other than us helping you in almost a consultancy level. I think the second thing is, I think yourself, Matt. I really wanted to say congrats to you, because what you've done with this and how you've grown RunChatLive is phenomenal. Any respected therapist that I know that I put on my sort of higher echelons speaks nothing but awesomeness about yourself. You are one of the genuine good guys out there.
Okay, easy. That's very nice.
It's leading on to the third one. My third and final point to anyone watching and listening: the 30th and 31st of October, get to Brighton, RunChatLive conference. It's going to be the biggest thing this year for runners in the UK, for coaches, for therapists. I'm lucky enough to have been asked to be one of the speakers, and I'm so excited about it. But I still feel that there's a huge population out there who just don't understand how important this could be.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate very much. Thank you very much for the kind words. But yeah, I was going to say that when you two were kind of off the air and not take up your time. But it's true. It's going to be great. Tickets are selling nicely now. I'm calmer now. I can actually feasibly on paper fly people out from Australia, Canada, the United States, and the like. So it's now's a chance for people to actually really have a good think about it over the summer and come along. I'd love to try and get more runners along and athletes themselves. We've got some great representatives from all different disciplines, podiatrists, chiropractors. We've got people coming over from Belgium, from Amsterdam, to come along. It's going to be a really great event. I'm not just saying that as the organizer, and hopefully it'll lead to a yearly thing. But I appreciate you plugging it. We'll be doing quite a lot of that over the next couple of months. But runners, I'm willing to. I've already contacted lots of running clubs and said, look, I don't expect you to pay the same as a therapist. The therapist is going to come along. They're going to pick up stuff from the great 10 speakers, including Mike here, and you're going to make money based on what they're telling you. It's as simple as that. You'll make up the price of the conference in a week or two, simply because the quality of information you'll be giving your therapists and running your business and everything is, you're going to get it paid back. No problem. That's what CPD is supposed to be. It's supposed to pay back itself within a couple of weeks. Runners, obviously, you're not going to make that money back. You will save yourself money in terms of spending your time on therapy that doesn't help you, or maybe dedicating too much time to a different pair of shoes every week. But I am prepared. I realize it's not such an investment monetary wise. So I am coming down very steeply in prices for runners. Contact me and present your case, but I am coming down by, like, I don't want to say a percentage, but depends how many there you are, but I'm willing to come down an awful lot in ticket prices just to get runners along, because you're the ones who it's for. But you know what, even if you come or not, it's going to be a great event, so don't let me twist your arm. It's going to be fantastic. So anyway, thanks for picking that up, Mike. I do appreciate it, and then thanks for being a speaker as well. You're one of
Thank you for asking.
He is genuinely very, very excited about it. He's talked about it a lot.
Well, he's my closing man. He's the main kind of like keynote speaker. He's going to sum it all up at the end. Responsibility for it. You know, I got Jack Chu, just opening it up. I thought I'd get the weakest link out of the way first of all. Imagine if Jack's the weakest one. We're finishing with Mike. Imagine who's in the middle. You know, amazing. Great. I'm joking.
You don't know what you've just done to his head now. Monday morning, he's going to be intolerable.
That's fine. And also, we've got Jack working with you guys as well, haven't we? Which is great, because that's another great organization. Is that confirmed now? It's not. I think I saw it on social media, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah. Jack is one of our ambassadors, and Choose Health is using our software.
Oh, well, there you go then. If Choose Health are using it, that's brilliant. That's all good. Okay, guys. Well, look at that. It's 2:39 now, so that is another, once again, hour that's disappeared away. Anything else we need to say of stuff that's coming up? Mike, you've got loads of, I can see you. Hopefully your own workshops are filling up.
Summertime's a tough one. There's a lot of people getting ready to compete. I'm always telling people with my courses, it's about coming in the winter to help you with the next season.
That was a good point you made the other day. Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people think it's come to get fixed from the course, when I'm trying to teach you how to stop yourselves getting fixed and perform better. 2 weeks today, I'm in Portsmouth. So if anyone's down south, come to Portsmouth. I'll be there teaching. Eventbrite, links on my page.
Yeah. And are they single day courses?
Yeah, 1 day courses. Brilliant. I don't want to take up more than half of someone's weekends.
Yeah. Okay, well, hopefully anyone listening to this consider that, and they can find that on. What's the best way to find details of those courses? Is it on the website?
Yeah, go to my Facebook page, Endurance Physio, and on the events, there's links to Eventbrite, so you can buy your tickets there. Half price for therapists. Student therapist.
Yeah, make sure you add that in. I was like, what? And sports injury fix. What's coming up? What's coming new? Well, we mentioned a few things already in terms of offering marketing advice, and anything else particular coming up in terms of the facilities, or
probably the main thing is therapists have been talking to us about, everybody has their own version of taking patient notes, and having them digital and keeping them secure is something that worries a lot of therapists and keeps them up at night. equally, some other software that's out there very much shoehorns them into a certain way of working, which they don't always like. So yeah, we've got it now, so you can literally just have it effectively like a blank sheet of paper and have it all stored nice and securely if that's what floats your boat. Or indeed, if you want to have your own templates, then there's the facility now to you can build your own, or you can just drop us over a scan of your template, and we can build that for you, and you can have as many of them as you like. So again, it's about making your life simple. So
really nice, good example. Yeah.
But
there's so many other things about Sports Injury Fix I feel we haven't managed to talk about. If therapists, mostly therapists, if they want to know about what the site offers, is that information available on your website, or should they email you, or what's the best bet?
Yeah, if they go along to sportsinjuryfix.com, and they'll see there's a business tab on there, say have a read. But please do, and certainly if someone's listened for an hour and 9 minutes of us wittering on, then please do drop us an email to info@sportsinjuryfix.com. So that's sports with an S on the end. Let us know your thoughts on the show. And certainly I'm sure we can sort them out with a discount as well if they've been kind enough to listen for this long.
Fantastic. That's great to hear as well. Wonderful. Well, I'll make sure those links, and I'll add the links to the video version that goes out on YouTube. I always encourage people, if you're listening to the audio podcast, try and join us live, because then you can ask questions. We have some great questions today from Gary House and from Daniel Gerber from Glasgow. But yeah, if you still want to see the video version, then YouTube's your place to go. And all the links we mentioned will be added in the final edit up there to make it easy for you, and they'll be in the show notes. Right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me for my first, three-way on live on video. I think it went down okay.
It's awesome.
Do you feel like you've been given adequate time?
Yeah, it's been great.
I didn't kind of like big one of you up more than the other. There's not going to be any hostility afterwards. No, that's always the worry about a threesome, isn't it? I don't know whether one of them walking away thinking they just haven't had as much action. So I learned anyway. But you both
we got quite well done, but jumping on the back of the first person's answer with the bits that we both forget.
You both look fairly satisfied, which I think is the main goal of any three-way. So
how could we not be having a three-way with you?
Oh no, it's just so flattering. No, seriously. Thank you for giving up your time. I should probably say more, actually. It's all very well me harping on about the number of downloads we're getting and how popular we're getting, but it's all based on you guests, really. Success is down to getting people like yourselves along and filling up the hour with really quality information. So thank you for giving your time up for free. I will send you back down to the lobby now, if that's all right. You two can carry on from where we finish now, and I'll come down and join you again for a little bit more in about 2 minutes. Is that okay? Right,
Yeah,
Malcolm Sloan,
thanks everyone.
founder of Sports Injury Fix, and Mike, the Endurance Physio. James, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Right, let's knock them off. 1 down. 2 down. Right, fantastic. What 2 lovely gentlemen. It's hopefully if you've seen it live, you'll already know, but if you listen to the audio, it seems like a very, very powerful, useful networking possibility there, Sports Injury Fix. I missed the boat when we had a clinic of 10 therapists. We were using one of the traditional ones, and it was okay, but we definitely didn't have the sort of facilities which Sports Injury Fix are providing now for therapists. So definitely worth checking them out. Even if you're working by yourself, there's going to be a lot there which can help you. And I love the fact, both of them, it's so clear that rather than competing, it's all about connecting and networking and joining minds and being more. It's the opposite of Brexit, basically. It's everything that's good about the world. Kind of tearing down walls instead of trying to build them. But anyway, that's a little bit of politics to end up on. There we go. Right. So we got a month off now because I'm off on holiday soon. We've actually got 4 weeks off. I think it's 4 Sundays of no RunChatLive, but we will be back. I think it's on September let me just have a check on the old phone. 1st of September. We have got Nils. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, but it's Nils, the founder of Trust Me, I'm a Physiotherapist. If you haven't seen that website before, then definitely check it out. I'm very thrilled to have Nils on the show with us. It's a fantastic website, and there'll be, again, it's another social company who is bringing great therapists together and just spreading the love, and hopefully bringing runners quality information the same way as Sports Injury Fix is doing, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to cut away the BS, as Mike James would put it in his lovely tones, and provide you with quality information which will get you back on the track faster without wasting money and time. So that'll be September Sunday, September the 1st, I think it is, with Nils from Trust Me, I'm a Physiotherapist. That's about all for today, I think. Nothing else for me to say. Thank you again to Brighton Beer Company, the brightonbeercompany.co.uk, for sponsoring us. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for the Alfist and Bergamot. That was a beautiful product, which I put a clip out there the other day, and my face is just so happy from it. It smells great. But yeah, check out Brighton Beer Company if you're looking for something to make the beer look healthy and smell good. That's where you need to go. Right. Thank you very much. Have a great month. Catch up with some of the ones you haven't listened to yet. We'll see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye. You're listening to RunChat Live podcast, putting the evidence back into running injury and performance.